In 2003, the world was told that the impossible was about to happen. Not just a skyscraper and not just a mall, but the entire planet, reconstructed in the middle of the ocean. It was called the world. 300 private islands, hand-carved from the seabed, arranged to look like the continents of Earth. The marketing was intoxicating. You didn't just buy a property. You bought a country. Richard Branson bought Great Britain. High-profile moguls from across the globe dumped billions into these patches of sand, dreaming of ultra-private villas and seven-star resorts accessible only by boat. It was the ultimate status symbol for the 0.01%. But today, if you fly over these islands, you don't see a global playground. You see a $14 billion graveyard of ambition. For nearly 2 decades, the world has sat sinking, stalled, and silent. From lawsuits to environmental disasters and the largest financial crash in history, the dream of owning the world became a nightmare that billionaires immediately regretted. Today, we're diving into the hubris, the engineering failures, and the strange, slow resurrection of Dubai's most expensive ghost town. To understand the regret, you have to understand the scale of the madness. Dubai's state-owned developer, Nakheel, didn't just want to build islands. They wanted to redefine geography. They dredged 320 million cubic meters of sand from the ocean floor. They used 31 million tons of rock just to create the breakwater, an oval-shaped wall intended to protect the world from the Persian Gulf waves. By 2008, the islands were technically finished. The sand was there, and the world's elite were biting. 70% of the islands were sold almost instantly. Rumors swirled that Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie had bought Ethiopia. Tommy Hilfiger and Rod Stewart were reportedly eyeing their own slices of the map. It felt like the future of luxury. But there was a massive, overlooked problem. When you buy a country in the middle of the sea, you aren't buying a house. You are buying a pile of wet sand with zero infrastructure. No electricity, no running water, no sewage system, and no bridge to the mainland. In September 2008, the music stopped. The global financial crisis hit, and Dubai, a city built on credit and ambition, found itself $80 billion in debt. Construction across the city froze. But while cranes on land simply stopped moving, the situation at the world was much more dire. The billionaires who bought islands suddenly realized they were holding assets that were impossible to develop. To build on an island, you have to transport every single brick, every generator, and every worker by boat. The costs were astronomical. Investors who had planned to build billion-dollar resorts watched their net worth evaporate. Then came the rumors that started the panic. The islands were sinking. NASA satellite imagery and evidence presented in a 2010 tribunal suggested that the islands were eroding back into the sea. The channels between the islands were filling with silt, making the water too shallow for large yachts. Nakheel denied it, but the damage was done. The world wasn't just a financial trap. It was physically disappearing. The regret wasn't just financial. It was personal. John Odlin, the Irish businessman who bought Ireland for $38 million, tragically took his own life as his empire crumbled under the weight of the recession. Another developer, Safi Karashi, who bought Great Britain, ended up in a Dubai prison for years over a series of bounce checks, though he was later clear of all charges. For nearly a decade, the island sat as a reminder of what happens when ego outpaces reality. One island, Lebanon, was developed into a small beach club, but for years, it was the only sign of life in an archipelago that was supposed to house 200,000 people. But this is Dubai. And in Dubai, a project is never truly dead. It just waits for more money. Fast forward to today, and the regret is slowly being replaced by a strange, high-tech reality. The Heart of Europe project has finally brought life to the European section of the map. This isn't just a hotel. It's an engineering marvel. They built Sweden, Germany, and Maine, Europe. To deal with the desert heat, they built a rainy street, a climate-controlled boulevard where it actually rains on command, keeping the temperature at a perfect 27 degrees Celsius, even when the rest of Dubai is melting. The most famous addition? The floating seahorse villas. These are 3-story homes where the master bedroom is completely submerged underwater. You wake up and look out of your window directly into a coral reef. It's the dream the billionaires were sold in 2003, finally realized over 2 decades later. But even now, only a tiny fraction of the 300 islands are developed. The rest remain as they were, piles of sand waiting for a billionaire brave enough, or crazy enough, to try again. So, was the world failure? For the original investors who lost their shirts in 2008, absolutely. It remains one of the most famous cautionary tales in real estate history. It proved that you can't just conquer nature with a checkbook. But as a symbol of Dubai's never say die attitude, it's a success. The islands are finally becoming a destination, even if they look nothing like the original plan. It turns out you can buy the world. You just have to be prepared to wait a lifetime for it to be built. Would you spend $15 million to live on a man-made island? Or is this just another example of too much money, too little logic? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most insane mega projects. Thanks for watching.